Isn't it? Let's talk to Sunil Sharma, political commentator, host of the Rational Voices with Sunil podcast. Sunil, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
There's not many rational voices out there at the moment, and even the Essex Police appear to have lost the plot. You know, incredible story in the front of the Telegraph that they've now admitted that they lied, first of all, about it, but they've now admitted, because they've seen footage, which is undeniable, that they were actually bussing people in from a nearby railway station into Epping so that they could counter-demonstrate against local residents who were demonstrating perfectly peacefully.
I mean, if there's any doubt that the police are not politically motivated, I think that's gone out the window here. There is clear political motivation from the police, and you could probably argue from more institutions than just the police. But this is, I think, one of the people who wrote into you said it perfectly. You could argue they're inciting violence by bringing people to another group of protesters who believe in something differently. If these more left-leaning protesters feel so passionate about this case, then they can turn up there by themselves. They can facilitate it themselves, just like everyone else who's been protesting before has. So the idea that the police are actually getting involved in this, their job should just be to stop if there's any violent acts. That's it, full stop. I don't think it almost seems as if they want problems to arise by bringing these two groups together and then basically blaming the group of people who are worried about the fact that there's migrants next to a secondary school, that they can blame everything on them. It almost seems as if they want these two groups to fight and then say, yep, look at these far right people, look at these people who are just unhelpful, they're trying to cause problems, and I think that's what they're trying to do. It makes no other sense of why else they would actually bring protesters.
Well, people are asking me this morning now, sending me all sorts of messages and tweets off the scale, asking if this is what the police have admitted to doing in Essex, what do they not admit to doing anywhere else? Because, you know, I don't think I've ever seen a case where this has been more blatantly, corrupt and anti the law itself. But, you know, what else are the police doing which is corrupt and against the law?
Definitely, and you know, the problem is that how will people now respond to this? Normal citizens, when they now speak to the police, it's naturally there's going to start to change their opinions of the police. Naturally, they may become a bit more less respect towards the police. They may not want to listen to the police as much, because if they know that the police are politically motivated, and the fact that they're even defending these actions really sums it up in terms of how politically motivated they've become. And it's really scary, and I can understand, you know, the frustrations from many people. If this was the other way around, would police be bringing those people who are unhappy with the migrants in the hotel? Would they be facilitating? There's absolutely no chance they would. Were they facilitating people during BLM who are anti-BLM to the protests in London? No. Then clearly there is one side in which they have motivations for. It's now out in the open, and I think if Sir Keir Starmer has any sort of brain cells or has any sort of care for the UK, the first thing you do is condemn this, regardless of if he agrees or disagrees, because you cannot have the police or any law enforcement in this country being politically motivated like the way they are currently.
Yeah, it is extraordinary what's going on, because we now see as well that there is a growing kind of disquiet in the country. You know, it doesn't just start in Epping and end in Epping. It starts in Epping and it spreads. You know, we've got people demonstrating in Diss now in Norfolk, because we had a caller, funnily enough, on Monday who alerted us to it and said, you know, there's an asylum seeker hotel which has now been taken over because it used to house women and children who were migrants trying to make a life in this country. They've all been moved out, and it's now full of young men. And similarly, last night, the Hotel the Britannia in Canary Wharf looked as though that was certainly going to be targeted by the Home Office. And we're not sure if those migrants are migrants who have been moved from Epping, but certainly they have now commandeered the Britannia Hotel, which is not cheap, and lots of people there last night wondering what it's all about and where it's all going to end.
Well, I think the thing is, and this is what makes the police story even more and more frustrating, is if you are a British person who has issue with the crazy net migration numbers in the UK, if you have an issue with the NHS waiting list, if you have an issue with your kids going to schools with huge numbers in each classroom, and you want to protest against this peacefully in the UK, what it seems like people are going to do, just like what Sir Keir Starmer did last year, is going to brand those people as far right, racist, bigots, and all that sort of stuff. And I think what the police did yesterday was an example of trying to incite that violence, just so that they can justify what these people are. It's perfectly normal for people in the UK and to be frustrated with what's going on in terms of the migration numbers. This is out of control. And until something happens, I think there's a serious risk of what happened last summer happening again. And
well, I mean, even the government are now starting to acknowledge that. Angela Rayner, quoted on the front page of the Times today, saying that immigration is having a profound impact on society. She's warning ministers in cabinet that they need to acknowledge real concerns about rapid change to diffuse community tensions. I mean, she's meant to be the Minister for Communities, so she should be the one diffusing tensions. And we spoke yesterday to one of the mothers down in Epping, and I said, if you had a message for Keir Starmer, what would it be? And she said, come and see us, come down with Yvette Cooper, talk to the people in Epping, understand why we are frustrated, understand why we are fearful, understand why we're angry, understand why you can't put migrants, young men, in a hotel next to a secondary school, understand why we're upset because a teenage girl was assaulted, and a man has now been charged with that assault. Go and see them, but they don't seem to have a clue that that's what they need to do.
100%. They don't seem interested in those people. They don't fit their little Westminster London bubble, so they're just not interested in looking at the average working class, average person in the UK. I just don't think they care. They're so out of wits with what actually happens to the average Brit in this country, and I think they'd prefer to ignore it. But I think unless they actually seriously make a big effort to understand the people's concerns, and there is a real risk of what happened in summer happening again. And I think, of course, we don't want to see violence in the streets. No one wants to see chaos like that. But there are a lot of people in this country whose voices have not been heard. Since what's happened in Brexit, one of the main reasons people voted for Brexit was a control in immigration. Not the only reason, but a big reason. And that's just not happened. And I think that's a serious concern. And people they feel it every single day in the UK. And I think maybe they don't feel it and they don't understand it, but the average Brit 100% feels it. And now there's actually threats in terms of security and safety for people in many places in the UK. It should be really alarming to anyone with a brink of common sense. But instead, I think my concern and worry is, like probably a lot of Brits, is they will brand people who are talking like this as far right. They'll try and stifle this sort of conversation from happening. And I think what the police did yesterday was an example of that, where they almost wanted, or it feels like they want some violence to kick off so they could label it straight off the bat. And I think that is where I think the real big concerns come.
And meanwhile, the problem is for Keir Starmer that he doesn't appear to not only know what to do about it, he puts out, these ridiculous tweets all the time. This is one he put out last night, sort of justifying all of his foreign diplomacy. Check this out.
I'm absolutely determined that we're going to stop people crossing the channel in small boats. That is being run by gangs who are making a huge amount of money from the vile trade of people smuggling and getting them into those boats. One other example I'll give you, which is very important to me, is the deal I was able to do with President Trump, the trade deal, had a direct impact on JLR. Yeah. I went up to Solihull to JLR. They sell into the North American market. Fantastic. Jaguar Land Rover, iconic British firm and business. Yeah. But they were under real threat with the tariffs. By reducing the tariffs, because of the agreement we made, 44,000 jobs are more secure now than they would otherwise have been. That's all the jobs in the supply market. So whether it's the deal this afternoon, which is small modular reactors, whether it's the returns agreement last week with the French, or the deal with the US, each of them translates directly into something that matters.
No, actually it doesn't. Jaguar Land Rover just fired 500 managers, right? Because their car company is going down the gurgler, partly because it's been badly managed and ridiculously become woke, right? The deal with the French, the one in, one out supposedly deal, is nothing like one in, one out, and it's not going to work. It's going to result in more people coming to this country than the ones who are going to leave it, right? And he's got, this afternoon, he's got Narendra Modi arriving for another state visit from India. As far as I'm under the impression of, the trade deal we've done with India is going to allow Indian workers to come and work in Britain for sort of preferential tax rates and preferential national insurance rates for Indian companies who want to employ them here.
I think the profiles of Narendra Modi, Donald Trump, these guys, they eat Sir Keir Starmer up in terms of he does not have any of the um, talents, charisma, whatever you want. But I think the big thing he could take from Narendra Modi when he visits him today is how India first he is, and how a lot of these, even Trump, America first, how much they actually take the interests of their people first.
Yes.
They put their interests first. I think that would be the best takeaway Sir Keir Starmer could have. If I was him, or if any of his people around him, is to say, how are you so deeply popular with your people, or how are you doing these deals for your country? Because at least these leaders, they put their country first. This man does not put the country first. I don't know who he puts first, but he definitely does not put the average Brit first. And I think that is the biggest problems. And the idea that he has any sort of say on international matters, the idea that he is this sort of, this foreign diplomat who has the capacity to do deals with other foreign leaders is laughable. He can't control his own country. He doesn't understand the average Brit's concern. So what on earth he talks about these international leaders with, I have no idea. I think they probably take advantage of him.
Oh, they do. Totally.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know how to negotiate if he fell over a negotiator. Good to talk to you, Sunil. Thanks very much indeed. Sunil Sharma, the host of the Rational Voices with Sunil podcast.